What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome to PCP Movie Night. It's the show where every Monday we gather, we pick a movie for the week, we watch it, we gather and discuss it with you out there in the chat. And we are wrapping up Crew's Choice for 2023. And tonight we're dealing with Joe Corallo's pick. This was the first year we gave Jolly Joe Corallo a pick, and he picked a 1987 little-known French animated film. And if you thought Joe Corallo was pretentious enough, that pick right there will just let you know what kind of a dude Joe Corallo is. But he's my kind of a dude. I really enjoyed this film. It's from, what's his name? Rene Laloux or something like that. I have seen Fantastic Planet. My friend Jamie, that was one of the first movies that she suggested that we watch together. And that movie blew me away. And so this movie, at first I was like, this seems like Fantastic Planet. And then Joe's like, it's the same dude. So I was very excited to check this out. Very excited to talk about it. So let's go ahead and just bring him in. Gandahar Joe himself. What is up, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Still in that like post-con depression kind of zone where it's like life's not as cool as it is at a con for the weekend, you know?
Oh, I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a really interesting pick, Joe. And just real quick, like, do you get off on like picking movies that are impossible to find? Like,
yeah.
Okay, nice. We had a hard time trying to find this one. It's not available physically, really, in the States or anything like that. But luckily, some people on YouTube have it, and pretty good versions of it as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I made sure to pick something that I knew I found and watched. So
yeah,
I was like, I know it's there. So it is watchable and at high enough quality, because I wanted to make sure I didn't pick something that was like impossible to find and also like bad quality when you do. But no, I'm glad this all worked out, and it was great seeing this movie again. I loved creating an excuse for myself to watch this movie again.
Yeah, you know, and speaking of creating excuses, it's Jelani. What is up, my man? How you doing?
Hey, I was gonna watch this, but it was in French.
You think this A stands for France?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Hey, good to see y'all, man. This was a movie.
You gotta admit though that it's at least
well
better than, it's at least better than the Page Master, right, Jelani? Come on.
Absolutely. No, I'm not dogging this movie at all. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, Joe, we had to watch the Page Master last week for some reason.
Yeah, we were forced to
watch it. I get back from a long weekend at Heroes Con, a long drive back from Charlotte, and I come home and I watch Page Master.
Not a good way to come home.
Speaking of a good way to come home, it's Brooks. What is up, my man? How you doing?
What's up? I'm still talking shit on Page Master. I'm disappointed in you. Poor man, he's sitting at his computer weeping right now.
Here it is.
Page Master!
Whose pick was Page Master?
Manny.
Oh.
Manny's like, it was between this or Blank Man. I'm like, we should have went with Blank Man, brother.
Oh, man. Oh, I haven't seen Blank Man forever.
That would be awesome.
Oh.
I think Manny's already like, next year, man. I got you next year. It's like, I don't know, man. You may have lost your Crew's Choice. I don't know. Dr. Sleep and then the Page Master, bro. It's just down. It's trending downwards, man. I'm sorry. I didn't like Dr. Sleep that much either. It was okay. Anyway, we're talking about Gandahar. So help me out, Joe. Is the director's name Rene Laloux or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's Rene Laloux or Laloux, so, like, because there's an X at the end, but I don't think they say that, so it's like Laloux.
It's Laloux.
Laloux. All right. I've seen Fantastic Planet, and I really did enjoy that film. It's surreal, it's weird, and that's what I was expecting out of this movie, and I got exactly what I expected out of it, man. And I really liked the movie. I liked it a lot. Overall, I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the themes. I enjoyed the voice acting. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the animation for the most part. Like, I think it's beautiful. There's this weird slowness to it that, and when I'm doing my research on this film, I find out that it was, believe it or not, like, it was hard for him to get the funding to do this movie. And so they went cheaper on the animation. And that's one of the reasons why it's so, and like, when I first started watching it, I was like, there's this weird, like, rotoscope effect going on, and I'm like, I don't know if this is animated over live action or it has this kind of vibe of like some of those early Disney movies, you know, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has that like rotoscope kind of thing, and there's something about that motion that is actually mesmerizing to me. Now, I was on 2 edibles when I watched this movie as well, which I'm sure that hurt. Right? Yeah, it's a great, like, no alcohol, just edibles, and that's the way to watch this fucking movie. I was zoned the fuck in, dude. I was in it. It's got plenty of boobs in it. It's got plenty of ass in it. You know, it's got all the stuff that I would want. It's got sexy people in it, but it's a really imaginative world that's being built in this movie. It's quite a fantastic planet, if you will, right? I loved everything, like the metamorphosis, the big brain or big ass or big cockhead that's out there at sea. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything about it, like the idea of the technology, like the birds and how they can like, they record information and then whatever the fuck, what's the main character's name? Like Celia or something like that? Like whatever he's riding on, like I just felt bad. Like, is that a live thing that died? Like, do we need to mourn for a second or something? But I really did enjoy this film. I thought it was imaginative. I thought it was dealing with some deep themes. Renee grew up during the Nazi occupation of France, so you can pick up on a lot of those vibes. I see a lot of influence from this movie into a lot of other things that I've seen. And I don't know if that influence is just there or if it's like legit, like people have seen this movie, they were influenced by it, but I fucking loved this movie. It's weird. It's offbeat. It's so surreal, but at the same time, it's one of the most human stories I've ever seen. And for a sci-fi fantasy that's so fantastical to be such a humanist tale was very, very cool for me, especially coming after the Page Master from last week. So this was a nice rebuttal to the Page Master, which isn't necessarily all bad.
No.
But I mean, Manny could have picked a stronger film. Anyway, Joe, we're not here to shit on Manny's pick.
Secret of Nim. You do American Tail. You do.
I love both of those.
Oh my gosh, The Land Before Time.
I would have preferred Five Goes West, man.
Five Goes West.
I'll deal with that one. The Rescuers Down Under, man. All those weird sequels they did 20 years later. I'll settle for those.
And they're good. Everything we mentioned was awesome.
Yeah, we need to do a Rescuers double feature one day. Honestly, we really need to. We want to keep leaning into animation. We need to do the Rescuers. Joe, this was your pick. Why don't you tell me your overall thoughts, your history with this movie, and how you watched this in a New York theater randomly at midnight in 1993.
Yeah. Well, in a similar sort of way to you, like I saw Fantastic Planet first a little while back, and then I was like, I got to see the rest of the movies that this guy did. So I saw Time Masters, and then I watched Gandahar, and I love all 3 of them. I think like for me, like this is where it sounds really pretentious. It's like everyone who knows like Renee Laloux knows Fantastic Planet, but they don't talk enough about Gandahar. So we have to do the movie that's lesser known than Fantastic Planet. But
makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot to this. I think again, I love the designs. Was it that French comic artist like Kaza, I think is how you say his name, designed this just like how Mobius designed Time Masters. And so you see a lot of that. You see a lot of the French sort of comics like designs here. I would say the movie kind of feels like 2 parts heavy metal, 1 part Miyazaki. I would say like it's mostly like a heavy metal kind of thing, but you have those kind of themes that like Miyazaki always like touches on. Like you can see like some like Nausicaa and like themes from like stuff like that in this.
Absolutely. I just watched Nausicaa for the first time a couple months ago.
So, wow. Nausicaa, I did see at the IFC Center in Manhattan. Years and years ago. But no, this is I mean, and the soundtrack again, like incredible. I mean, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but he also did like the soundtracks for like The English Patient, like The Talented Mr. Ripley, like a bunch of big movies. Like this is
like Gabriel Yared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I really like The Talented Mr. Ripley, actually. The English Patient sucks, but The Talented Mr. Ripley is really good.
It really does.
Okay, Elaine.
This is one of my favorite Seinfeld bits is The English Patient.
It stinks.
I hated that movie just because it was in the theater for too damn long. And it was 3 hours long, and like old people went to go see it, and it was annoying me.
For sack lunch?
Yes. And no bathroom breaks.
How they all fit in the bag?
Sorry. I digress.
But yeah, no, I definitely, when I was thinking of movies to pick, I was like, well, I'd like to pick an animated movie because there could be more animated films on this. There's so many, and I know there's more live action. You guys cover live action. I was like, well, let me pick it and let me shake it up a little bit. And I wanted to pick something that I knew you, Robbie, would enjoy, and I thought other people would tolerate enough to let happen.
Nice.
Wow.
And I was like, I think Gandahar will do that. I think.
Yeah, it did. Now, what I love is that three of us who, for our crew's choice, were like, we haven't done enough animated films. So for the last 3 fucking weeks, we've been doing animated films. Except for the 20 minutes that weren't animated in the Page Master. But yeah, we did Silent Voice, Page Master, now Gandahar. And man, Silent Voice and Gandahar those are some really strong animated films that resonate just as much as anything live action we cover here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I'm curious as to what Jelani thinks about this movie because I got a random message from Jelani one night that said, this movie's so fucking long and slow. So I'm curious. What did you think overall by the time you got to the end of it, Jelani?
I watched it twice. I had to be sure. Because the first time I saw it, it was really slow for me. Maybe I just caught me at the wrong time. I don't know what it was. I watched it and I was like, this is a little slow. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll watch it again. So I watched it again last night. I really enjoy this film. It's masterful. It's nice art. It's nice enough art. It's right there with heavy metal. So I do agree with that part. It's got boobs everywhere, but it's fine. It's got a dickhead for freaking antagonist. It's perfect. It's French, which suits you perfectly, Joe. This movie is, I don't know how to explain it. Like it's got a heart to it. You just gotta pay attention to what's happening. The world itself, it's a peaceful world that's attacked by awful metal men, and this agent is sent to find out what happens and finds his love, finds his purpose. All of these things. I mean, it's such a great tale if you think about it. You know what I'm saying? From this fantastical world, I liked the music of it. I liked the pacing of it after I watched it the second time and understood the story. Because I was watching, when you go in blind, you're just like, oh no, what is that? What is that thing? Why is that thing a thing? Why is that thing killing a thing with branch things? And it was weird. And once I got used to it, the world itself, I had to put myself in that world. It's so hard nowadays to put yourself into another place because they always want to ground our movies in reality and they're for us and all that stuff. And it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy world. It's whimsical. The music is very whimsical as well. It's a great film. If I had my attention span back and I'd watched it the first time, I had to wait and slow down, realize that my attention span is a mile a minute now. and I have to like calm down and actually watch a story. It was a good story, so I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Brooks, what about you, man? What'd you think about Gandahar overall?
Well, I had a sort of similar experience to Delaney, and that the first time I watched it, I thought, but so I could take in the music more, and get a new perspective. And the second time I watched it, I really, really liked it a lot more. And I think it's because, like, the first time I managed to, I saw what was going on, like I managed to like absorb the themes and everything. But the second time, like, I actually managed to I actually managed to look at it, I managed to experience the story the way I think it was meant to be. And like, I love the animation, the music, like it's so 80s sci-fi, like it just like, it just took me back, and I did kind of feel like that heavy metal vibe a little bit from it, but like some of the other different, of those old animated features as well. And I really dug this one on the second watch.
Hell yeah. I love how everybody's pulling a Verno tonight and having to watch this movie 2 times so they can like get into it, man. But I mean, I get what you're saying, because when you first watch this thing, it's like, it's not like many other things. Now, like Brooks and Jelani, have y'all watched Fantastic Planet?
No, I haven't.
Y'all got to watch that. It's easier to find. There's like Criterion Blu-ray of it and all that stuff. Like Jamie introduced me to that film and it blew me away. It was like the second film she recommended that we watched together. The first one was The Hunger, which is like the sexiest film I've ever fucking seen, because it's got Susan Sarandon and David Bowie in it. And you're just like, I can't handle this. You know what I'm saying?
That's too much facts.
Yeah, Fantastic Planets was really, really good. But this one, I don't know. I latched onto this one a little bit more. I found the narrative a little bit easier to follow, a little bit more invested in this story, in these characters. I really enjoyed this. But this movie is fleshed out with this fantastical world, but it has some really solid standout characters. So, Joe, this was your pick. You get to go first. What's a character / performance you want to highlight? By the way, this was done in English as the movie called Light Years. It was one of the first Miramax productions. It was directed by Harvey Weinstein, but it had like a whole new score. It had like Christopher Plummer was Metamorphosis, I think. Glenn Close was in it. Jennifer Grey was in it. Like Bridget Fonda. So like, there's a piece of me that wants to watch the English version as well. But what's a character you want to highlight here, Joe?
For this, and since I get to go first, I will choose. Metamorphosis is just such an interesting villain / hero.
He's a villain who fights himself in the future.
It's like, it's just done so great. Like just this idea of, and it's so hard to pull off. I think we've seen this in like comics and other things where they try to pull off this, like, this character from the past is a villain in the future kind of thing. But here, it works so well. He's like genuinely unsure at first, like why these metal men are like worshiping him. Like they do it like perfectly. Like he doesn't know what's going on even. And then it's only later that he figures out, oh, I am this like tyrant in the future that's, part of what has caused all of this. And again, I love the bit where they don't sort of hold your hand through it. And he's like, no, that syringe, like that thing's not going to work on me now. You got to wait till the future. And they don't explain it to you in the sense of, I'm too young. I can still regenerate quickly. It's not until the future when I have to steal, the Gandaharians from the present and suck their life force out 1,000 years from now to keep prolonging my life. Then that'll work and kill me. Like that, just all that sort of stuff, and just all the themes he brings with him of this idea of like, I believe it was Harvey Dent who once said, you can either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain, and or become the villain. And decades before The Dark
He had
Knight.
abandonment issues too. Like, he was created and just left out in the middle of the ocean, and like, he's lonely. Like, he wants to connect with people, but like, there's a lot of layers to him, I think.
Oh yeah, no, and it's you just get all of this, like all of like Gandahar related problems are like, oh, we created this thing, and then we were just like, eh. And then it's just
we'll ignore it, right? It's like ignoring the problem, ignoring like those that we are ashamed of, right? Like that's definitely part of the themes. Damn, Joe, you stole my pick, man. I was gonna go with Metamorphosis because he's just so great, and like finding out Christopher Plummer was the voice in the English version, I'm like, man, that's got to be badass, right? That's got to be great, man. Though I hear that they lose some of the nuance in the English version, light years. But that's a really good pick and a very fascinating character to me in this entire movie. I love it because he's the antagonist, but in a way, he's also the Merlin for our protagonist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's the helper. He's the wizard helping out with the quest, the Obi-Wan, if you will. Jelani, what's a character you want to highlight?
I was gonna go with one, but now I'm going with the other. I'm gonna do two, but I can't. So I'm gonna pick the Thorn, the gigantic lizard beast that comes and kills the middlemen and saves Syl and Ariel. I don't know what it is. It's like those things were just shooting at him or her, and it shrugged all of it off. Just like, forget this stamp. Forget this stamp. I got you. Like, and she saves the two of them from the shell. Well, Syl does it, but she puts them down, treats them like children, and Ariel like notices. Like, I know it's got a womanly instinct, and I don't know. It's just that character. You never see it again. It would have been nice to see
again. Why didn't it save the other eggs? Why didn't it
I don't know. I guess that one cracked. That one cracked when it put it in its hand. I guess I don't know.
Maybe it's because maybe they were awake and the other ones weren't. But I mean, really, Brooks, do we really need to dive into that out of all this movie? Like,
there's
why not? Should have taken all of it.
Well, I'm gonna go with my other one too because.
If there were an army of her species, the metal men would be fucked.
They'd be done. Yeah.
Do they
put them in the time thing and just walk?
They can barely handle the crab people, who, by the way, show the fuck up out of nowhere. Were there crab people in this fucking world? What's going on? This is great.
Gandahar is great, man. All the characters were fantastic, but that Thorn was beautiful. I do want to take one other, and I don't think no one will take this. I'm serious. It was one of the mutants, the main mutant guy that was like the leader.
With the faces coming out of his body.
With all the faces, and he like was conflicted with himself.
One of his faces said something. He's like, "Shut up, you."
Shut up, yeah. Because they're all independent. They had to have been independent of each other to just merge together. One of the many experiments that the Gandaharians did, and it was just. It was a cool kid. He was a cool character, the best character for me because he had all them. He had the faux titty girls sit right beside him, and he was like, "Yeah, that one."
Like,
he was so cool about it.
Total Recall. You got 3 breasts. How about 4? All right, Brooks. What about you, man? What's a character you want to highlight?
Well, I really like the Metal Men. Like just in general, I love like the design is like so cool. Like they're just this like. Completely black with that one giant red circle in the middle with the red eye slits. Like I
looks like
the way they just
walk
in formation.
They're Nazis.
Like I love how they just blast everything in their path. It's like, and I really like this. When it shows the leader and I'm like telling them, all about how the metamorphosis wants them to do all this. And then you see Sylvain and his girl over there, and he's like what? And I think he says something like, "Why do you think he doesn't say something to him?" And Sylvain says "Gods rarely ever actually say anything." And she's like, "That's because they don't exist." I think that was my favorite line of the movie. It's just straight up saying
there's a religious
But
connotation.
yeah, like yeah, like and it's so weird because they're like this. They're so like inhuman, but like they have this very human quality of, we need someone to tell us what to do. So, and like, but overall, they just look really cool. Really,
Yeah,
when
they
it comes
do
down
look
to
really
it.
cool. Like I said, it looks like an army of stealth suit Iron Man,
Yeah,
and I like that. For me,
Tony
I'll go.
Stark's finally lost it.
Yeah, you know it, right? Fuck, he's marrying Emma Frost. I mean,
what in the hell?
what's that
Yay,
song?
Marvel!
Dr. Dre, the housewife song. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we'll move on. Anyway, I'll go with Ariel, I believe is the name. Ariel,
Yeah,
right? I like her because she's hot. She's very cool, and she was it Seal, right? Seal. Seal? Is it
Yeah,
Seal? Like you
It's
never gonna
Seal.
stop.
S-Y-L. Oh,
No, but she's like, I don't know. She's got this like innocence about her and the way that she views the world that is really cool. And the other one I want to mention is what is it? Ambisextra, who's like the leader of Gandahar with those badass like crown with the wings, and fucking chick is sexy too, man. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of sexy people in this movie, man. I'm just saying, and it's an animated movie, so I got to calm down. But anyway, style and structure. I love the style of this movie. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. Out of all these animated films we've been talking about, Page Master, and A Silent Voice, which is really fucking good. But Silent Voice is a little bit too long. This movie is not too long. So I love the style of the animation. I think it's beautiful. I think it's the best animated film we've ever reviewed here on as far as looks here on PCP Movie Night. And I think we've only done 3 now. Well, 2 and 3/4 because Page Master has some live action in it. But I love the animation style. I love the art. I think it's beautiful. Joe mentioned like the French comic book vibe to it, and I love that. I've never seen Time Masters, so I need to watch that. Like Mobius designed some of that. That's fucking awesome. Like one of the greatest artists of all times in this medium that we love, comics, is a French dude named Jean Giraud, right? Like Mobius, like absolutely fantastic stuff. I've been getting into his work for the first time really this last year. And it's hard to find. It's hard to find, and that's something we need to fix. So by the end of this show, I hope we can influence a Blu-ray release of Gandahar, and I hope we can convince Mobius's widow to let more American reprints be done, because we got to know this dude's work. And the French art is something that is obviously foreign to a lot of Americans, but it is some of the best stuff. I love the way this movie looks. I love the pace of it. I love the structure of it. And Silent Voice was a great movie that made me tear up, but it was a bit too long, kind of went over the same ground a lot. This movie doesn't. It doesn't take its audience for granted, like Joe was kind of alluding to. I love that about movies. It's one of Joe's favorite things. One of my favorite things is when whoever's making the movie goes, the people watching this movie, I think they're going to be pretty smart. I think they'll be able to put it together. We don't have to spoon feed them fucking everything. So I really like the style and structure of this film. What about you, Joe? What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, the style, again, just aesthetically, it's gorgeous. I mean, like there are so many like stills of this movie that would be like amazing to like hang up on your wall or something. I mean, it's just all the atmosphere, the mood, the structure of it. Again, it's a very short movie overall. Like it's under 90 minutes. Like it doesn't linger too long. It keeps the pace go. Like there isn't. I feel like a lot of other kinds of movies like this, it takes like 20-25 minutes before the hero's journey really starts, or like the hero real there's like some background stuff, there's but this movie is just like, we need to fix this shit, bring him in, go do your thing. And he's like, all right. And like within like 5 minutes he's on that dragon thing, having to fight for his survival there, getting out into the sort of wastelands where he meets the mutants. And another fun thing too with the style of it, the guns that don't shoot bullets, they shoot like seeds that rapidly grow into like thorns and stuff. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah, it really is fucking cool. And it's a cool visual, and it's so cool to see technology portrayed a little bit differently, right? And one of my favorite things about this movie is that the Gandaharians are very naive, right? They've been living in peace and tranquility for so long that they don't even know how to deal with this threat that's coming upon them. And that's a cool bit of nuance in the film. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about the style and structure?
It's very Pretty Planet. I would like to visit Gandahar, and chill out with its half naked women. It's pretty cool. I mean, the it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I like the pastel colors. It's very it shows, and it's a contrast to the black of the soldiers that come in. I don't know what it is, but I like that color scheme.
Well, and even the contrast between the contrast between Gandahar in the present day and then in the future when it becomes more like
it's all metal. He's like, wasn't there an ocean here? Like,
and we gotta think, if this dude was growing up during the Nazi occupation of France, that's like 30s, 40s, right? So like, he's very aware of the impact that industrialization has had on the world, probably.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing that I think is thematically relevant in this film.
It's absolutely crazy. And I love this movie. Like I said, it took a while for me to get into the pacing, but once you do, it's normal storytelling. It does it really well. I love the animation. I got used to it very quickly. I love all the characters that were drawn, especially the Soren. That was just excellent. This giant dinosaur, this lovely dinosaur licking people. I like how he licked like both of them, and it like moved the hair, and the hair is done well the way it is with the lick. Although there should be lots of slob, but it's drawn very well. So I'm very impressed with that. I'm impressed with the pacing. The structure of it is fine. It's classic 3-act, but at the same time, it has time travel. And you throw that time travel in the mix. Like, these things are coming from the future to steal people from the past to keep itself alive, because technically it's all one of them. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling to me. So, yeah, structurally it's great. It looks good. I'm impressed with it. I was surprised after I was able to soak it in. I was very surprised.
Speaking of being surprised and shocked and mesmerized after you get to soak them in, Brooks, what do you think about the style and structure of this film?
That's good. I liked it. I think like just the animation alone in this movie, like even if I hadn't had the subtitles and watching it, it's probably still and get some in just because of how pretty it is. And I also like that old kind of animation style that it uses as well. Like these days, like the hand-drawn animation is kind of like going. They're not using it as much. Like mostly it's kind of been just anime that still uses like 2D animation these days. And like I just wish that they would make more movies in this kind of style. Like maybe you could still like have a throwback kind of movie in this kind of style of animation, and maybe make it a little more crisp. But it is and it's not too long either. Like this movie, like I think it tells the story exactly the way it should be, and it's not too complicated either. Like I mean, there is there's more to look into it on, but it's not like so complicated that you can't understand what's going on. Like it is an adventure, and you follow the protagonist on his way to the end. The ending may seem a little bit abrupt, but I think that's just that's kind of the nature of it. It's like the day has been saved. What else is there to say?
Abrupt. It took 1,000 years for that ending, brother. Come on. All right, thought you'd
Gandahar been
respond.
saved. Roll credits.
Shit, there you are. All right, the music. We talked about a little bit of the music. It is done by Gabriel Yared. I love the music in this movie. It's got this like ambient quality to it that I absolutely adore. And like I said, I was on edibles when I watched this movie, and so I was able just to sink back in my chair and just enjoy the shit out of it visually and audibly. The music is fucking awesome. Now I know in the English version they got a more like rock 80s synth kind of vibe. I want to check that out too, because that sounds like up my alley. But man, there's something about the ethereal quality of the ambience in this soundtrack that I would definitely miss watching the English version, because the music to me works so well in this movie and adds to this mesmerizing, mythical kind of surreal quality to this film. What do you think about the music, Joe?
Yeah, no, same thing. And I've seen both versions at different times, and yeah, while I do like some of the harder stuff in the American version at points, like I love the ethereal sort of alien kind of feel this has. I mean, it still feels very 80s, like you can place it, but some of my favorite parts are when they first encounter the metal men. And like that music, it really like picks up, and
that Darth Vader breathing, yeah,
all that's like that was really stood out to me, and just like the sort of like those sounds where it sounds like they're like hitting pipes or something like that when the metal men show up, and that happens a few more times through the film, like. All that stuff. It's really like eerie, and I just love it.
Nice. What about you, Delaney? What do you think about the music?
Yeah, I thought it was the same way Joe does with that portion. I really liked the whimsical nature of the happy while they were like at the very beginning where everyone's playing and having a good time before it like turns into that to that massacre. But I really liked it. It was when I first saw it, or when I first heard it, the first time I watched it, it was off-putting to me because I didn't get it. Like it's so repetitive. I'm like, it's very repetitive, but it shows the nature of the planet, how even their happiness, their complacency. They're just so happy in this world before these things take over. I love that beginning scene about with the music that was there. I like the battle scene at the very end. The end's music. It's a combination of the two, because it's like a fight for the life, but it's also kind of wispy at the same time. I don't know how to explain that either, but it's very good. All the music suits every scene in this movie.
Hell yeah. What about you? Speaking of suiting every scene, Brooks, what do you think about the music in Gandahar?
Oh, I like it. It does remind me very much of like 80s sci-fi stuff, a lot of synth stuff, this movie had a lot of chime kind of sounds to it, like wind chimes almost. But I think my favorite is the men theme with the weird kind of heavy breathing almost sounds. So yeah, it is a soundtrack for this movie. And it's just one of those soundtracks that couldn't work with anything else, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I haven't tried. I haven't tried listening to. Maybe you should. Oh, it's weird echo in mine. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I love when the metal men show up and they're marching and they're in time with the music. Like that's a really cool little bit. Like, because it's not just the music, it's the sound design as well. It all works so well together. It's like almost like all of it. The sound design,
really good in this movie.
Yeah, all of it like together makes a great composition. It's just audibly, it's just such a treat, even if you don't understand what's going on there. Theme. What's this? Yeah, we got some feedback coming from someone, just so y'all know. And so the theme, Joe. This movie was important enough for you to recommend it because you wanted to do an animated film. You didn't know that two other people were picking animated films. That's fine.
I did not. No.
And you wanted to pick something that you thought I would like, and congratulations, you fucking did it. So that was awesome. You fulfilled all of your tasks. But also, this movie has to resonate with you in some kind of way other than just being the Rene Laloux movie that nobody remembers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What to you is this movie about? And there's a lot of stuff we can pick out, right? But to you, what's it speaking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes into, and, you know, I touched on it earlier of, you know, sort of these, like, you know, society is just disregarding things, allowing things to get worse far away, and we'll deal with it when we deal with it. And sometimes that means not really dealing with it at all. Like, but what makes this movie stand out, and I think, you know, Delaney, Brooks, and I think you all kind of alluded to these points of, like, you can watch it without the context of Renee growing up in Nazi-occupied France and just take it for what it is. But with that context, it's, like, very easy to see without kind of hitting you over the head with it that, like, this is appeasement. It's all like, you know, like, oh, just let's, you know, we don't have to worry about that. Like, the problem is, you know, it's outside of our borders. What's going to happen? They're just going to come here. And, you know, with the sort of Nazism and, you know, the rise of fascism, you know, it's a roundabout sort of way to do it, but you can look at this and be like, well, they are showing that it's, you know, the Gandaharians themselves have been so twisted, they become the metal men. But they're made, their bodies are basically, you know, they're turned to stone first. So, you know, they like a motionless stone, and then their essence is broken down, and whatever is left that you know, Metamorphosis doesn't need to rebuild itself is just there is just enough human essence in a metal man to have it function. And you can look at that as being like, yeah, that's Nazism. It's like these are people who are just human enough to walk around, exist, be part of the collective. You know, obviously the movie makes it that point, like when the one metal man is like giving the speech in front of the door of, you know, it's all, you know, unity in like the worst way, and like we're in lockstep, and all of that stuff. So it's all this like warning about fascism throughout, and how fascism starts at home, we create it, and like, you know, we ultimately have to deal with it in some way.
Yeah. And two things that this made me really think of was the Cybermen from Doctor Who.
Yes.
Right? That I got those vibes. And then a little bit of Phantasm in there, where they're like stealing people, taking them to another dimension or through a portal, and they're coming out slaves.
Yeah, the door.
Something like that, right? Yeah, exactly. If only Reggie Bannister was there to stop the vibration.
All of it was on. All of it.
He would have done it because he's hot as love, baby. You know what I'm saying? Nicely put, Joe. What about you, Jelani? What's this movie speaking to you?
Let's see. I guess, like I said before, don't get too complacent. Don't let things fall by the wayside. Don't let things go. Always be on your toes, head on a swivel, because you never know what's going to come, you know, and you're not ready for it. Yeah, the Gandaharians were their hubris. A lot of them peaks in their time, but it also generated a monster that like is going to come back to consume them. And it was, you nailed it, Joe. That's exactly what it is. Fighting fascism, fighting, you know, the uniformity, and that goes. It tells a lot of stories about modern day, about how we are right now, like in this moment. Their factions, their ways, they're just I'm for this, I'm not against this. That's all there is. It really stands to reason that that's the stuff that lasts the test of time, even 1,000 years. It tells a big story. and that's what I got out of it.
Hell yeah. What about you, Brooks? What's this movie speaking to you? And nicely put, Jelani.
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with the danger of kind of like forgetting the sins of your past, like, you know, that they kind of swept a lot of these things under the rug, like, you know, the whole thing of metamorphosis being like just abandoned. He's an abandoned experiment. The mutants, another like experiment that they just like abandon and just pretend like, you know, they don't exist. And, you know, the idea that you know, Gandahar has sown the seeds of its own destruction is interesting, because, like, you know, the fact that they, you know, have not, it's not just that they did the things, it's just that they forgot about them. Like, they don't talk about it. They like, it's like even the mutants or the deformed ones are just a legend, basically. They don't, and they've never tried to reach out and, like, despite the fact that they're obviously intelligent beings who have value. And Metamorphosis is the same, you know, he has value as well, like, you know, but, you know, and this idea that you can just, you know, oh, it's over there, so, you know, we don't have to deal with it. Of course, eventually that's going to come back to bite you. You know, it's a thing like how, you know, there's a lot of this idea that, you know, certain things about history we just don't need to talk about, which I think is like the exact opposite of what we need. Of course, we need to talk about those things, you know, the good and the bad, because, you know, that's the whole thing, you know, with history is like, you know, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. So if you only, you know, engage with the things in history that you believe are important and kind of put things you think are, you know, that portray something in a light you don't like, you know, that's sowing the seeds for your own destruction.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely put. For me, y'all have hit it all on the head, the nail on the head. There is the element of taking issues, problems, and pushing them off, avoiding them, basically. It's about avoidance and how that only allows things to fester and grow and become more of a problem eventually. It speaks on a society that is naive, and they think that they have elevated to a certain level. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know if y'all remember, but not too long ago, we had a black president here in the States, and everybody was like, well, I guess racism's done. Right. And we have come to find out it's not. Yeah, right. We thought we did, but we didn't. Right. We just kind of pushed some shit aside. That's what we do as people, as individuals, and as a collective. And that's another thing this movie is about the individual and the collective. It's about the beauty of community and how it can really be a very fantastic thing. But if we lose individuality for a community, we just become the metal men, right? And another thing is, who are the enemies? Themselves, right? It's their hubris that collapses in and of it, in on itself. It is their avoidance that allows this problem to grow and fester. And another really strong theme that I think is very important in this movie is that big problems don't get solved immediately. So many times in our lives, we get overwhelmed by what's in front of us or what, like, it was directly in front of us. And all of us have challenges and obstacles in life. And they seem so big and looming, and we want to be able to conquer it immediately. Like, if you got a problem with, like, addiction, or if you got a problem with anything else, right? If you got a problem with a lack of love in your life, you've got a problem with anger, if you got a problem with depression, anything like that, it seems like this big, giant metamorphosis that you want to just end and tackle and conquer as soon as possible. Sometimes it takes 1,000 years, figuratively speaking. Sometimes it takes time. You have to build yourself up, and your weakness or whatever the obstacle is that you're trying to conquer needs to weaken a little bit too. You need to develop strength and courage, and that provides weakness to the obstacle. And remember, the obstacle is the way. So when something comes up and it's a problem, that's life telling you, tackle it. But remember, it ain't going to happen overnight. It takes work. It takes you finding out who you are first, right? What's his name? Sylvana? What's his name again?
Oh,
Sylvain.
yeah.
Sylvain.
Sylvain, yeah.
He wasn't ready. You know what I'm saying? And Metamorphosis was too strong.
Ready.
But with time, with patience, with developing that stuff, that's where we come. So to me, it's all this kind of stuff blended together. There are a lot of themes that we can dig into this movie, and that's what makes it such a fascinating movie to talk about it here on PCP Movie. Now it's time to rate the film. So Joe, out of 5 possible you digs, and you out there in the chat, if you watched the film, and I know you did, Spillio, and I know you did Introspect, so y'all tell us, what did you rate it out of 5 possible you digs? What do you give Gandahar? Joe, kick us off.
I feel weird suggesting a movie everyone watch and then not giving it a 5. Like,
well, not even Manny gave Pagemaster a 5, just so you know.
Yeah.
All right?
No, but I mean, like, you know, I'd probably, like, I was thinking this, like, from the beginning, so I'm going to stick with it. I'd say, like, 4.5 out of 5. Like, it's, there are, like, just little things here and there, but overall, like, it's very hard to find stuff like this. Like, the unique factor alone, like, it's not like a movie that's like, oh, that's a really good horror movie. It's a shame they don't make horror movies, or else, like, it's so...
If only.
Because, like, to scratch the kind of itch you'd get from Gandahar, it's like, oh, there's, like, a handful of other things if you can find them, and, like, that's it.
Yeah.
So, so I'm going to go with a 4.5 because... it's solid. It's short and sweet. It gets to the point. It goes in, goes out. The animation. It's gorgeously drawn. I wish. If the animation budget was higher, I'd probably give it a 5. But but yeah, it's not a complicated story, but it's a mature story. And it treats the audience with respect while not being like, because I feel that happens way too often where people are like, like, oh, this movie's like, it's needlessly complicated. That's why it's good. It's like, no, it's like, it's not needless. It's easy enough to follow while still feeling like bizarre and alien. So yeah.
Oh yeah. If this movie was made today, it would be like, it would have started with like this big caption. It'd been like 1,000 years from now, Gandahar is going to be destroyed by a giant brain named Metamorphosis. But now 1,000 years before, they wouldn't allow us to make those connections.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really cool and profound about this movie. Jelani, out of 5 you digs, what do you give Gandahar?
I had to watch it twice, so it has a good rewatchability factor to it. I'll give it a 4. Yeah, it's watchable. It's very nice. This is something I would have watched like on a Saturday morning. Like, I don't know.
I had this for Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid, by the way.
I love that. But it just has that feeling to it. And like I said, it's very whimsical and very just, I don't know. It's sci-fi whimsical, sci-fi whimsy, fantasy kind of deal. It's very nice. It's very light on the. It's got a good palette. I'm okay with it. It's I want to go. All right, like I said, I want to visit Gandahar. Not with Metalman, but I'll visit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Four you digs from Jelani. And you're right about that, man. It is a nice adult Saturday morning kind of watch. I think it's a good movie to kind of put on in the afternoon when you just kind of chilling, hanging out. Maybe you had an edible or two, and you just want to kind of zone out. What about you, Brooks? Out of 5 you digs, what do you give Gandahar?
I agree with Joe. I think it's a 4.5. It's not quite perfect, but like it scratches a lot of itches that I like. I think it's a great fantasy movie. Like it's complex, but not like so complex it feels like it's up its own ass as much. And it's obviously not a movie you could watch with like younger kids or anything because of all the boobs. But it has an important lesson, I think, and that's what the best movies are all about.
Absolutely. I will agree with Brooks and Joe, and I'm going to give this a 4.5. And the reason is pretty much the same thing Joe said. If the animation budget was a little bit higher and it was a little bit more fluid, not as stiff in its animation, because it does come across a little stiff at times. That's the only thing I have against this movie, honestly, is the stiffness of some of the animation. So I'm going to go 4.5. I think it's rather brilliant. And 4.5, y'all, it's pretty good. That's a 9 out of 10. 4.5. I mean, I love this show. I love this show so much because we're like, oh, I'm going to give it a 4, but let me explain why. And then other movies were like 1. They made a fucking movie. Fuck it. I think I gave Page Master like a 2, I think. But a 4.5 for Gandahar from me as well. So we out there in the chat, we got a 4.25 from Spilio. And we got a 4 from Introspect M. For you, Diggs. The plot was interesting and the weirdness was cool. The dialogue and characters were a bit simplistic. And I can dig on that as well. But like Joe said, I like the simplicity as well. Because it does provide this innocence. But the other thing is you can't, as an individual or as a society, be too naive to the problems in the world and the problems that you're ignoring and the problems that you're helping create. You know what I'm saying? So I think this movie's absolutely fantastic. For 4.5 from me, Joe, and Brooks, and a 4.0 from Jelani. For a PCP average, we'll add in John's score and Introspect score. We'll do a PCP average of 4.467. Fuck. 67. Didn't quite work out, but it's all right. It's all right. A 4.67, though I'm pretty sure that Zill and Ariel were involved in some 69 going on, so they made that up for us as well. I'd like to see the really extended cut of this film, actually, with all the animated sex. That would be great. So yeah, Joe, like it looks like we got a pretty good, solid response to your movie.
Yeah, it was no Page Master. Good job.
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah.
And we didn't even plan this, it just happened that Gandahar was after Page Master, but it's absolutely perfect how it worked out, man. It was a nice palate cleanser. So there you go. All right. So next week here on PCP Movie Night, we're not going to be here because it's July 3rd, which is the night before July 4th. So you should go just hang out and have fun, do your thing, hang out with your family. But we will be back the week after that, July 10th, to kick off Action Fest 2023. And we're kicking it off with the Indiana Jones franchise. That's right, all 5 films, because there will be 5 by the time we're doing this. All 5 films. If you want to know what we think about Dial of Destiny, and if you want to hear me staunchly defend Temple of Doom as the best Indiana Jones movie, join us in 2 weeks for the Indiana Jones franchise review, the kickoff of Action Fest 2023. But before that, check out Dylan's Horror Show on Saturday, July 1st, as they talk about Jaws. That should be a good one. Jelani, you should join him for that, and you can just scream out sharks every fucking 2 minutes. Yeah,
I'm getting water like that.
But join us on Thursday as well. Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. We're doing What Are the Best Comics of June 2023. It's time for the monthly comic review. The best comics of the month. What are they? Who's the panel? I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's going to be Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. So join us for that. Joe, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for a baller-ass pick. What you got coming up? I know you got a Sheena book that just got announced, right?
Yeah, so that's coming out. I'm editing that with Stephen E. DeSouza is co-writing that, who's also in charge like the reboot in general with Wes Clark Jr. Eddie Ano is continuing the art. Taylor Esposito is going to continue lettering it. So yeah, that's coming along. The trade for Dahlia in the Dark is out next month. So I'm excited for that. And the trade for the Neverending Party I think got pushed back a few weeks, but I did get my comps in the mail. So it exists. It's a real thing.
Very cool.
People be getting this. This will be available.
Love that
soon.
cover, man.
Right?
Love that joke.
That's a great book. Everybody needs to check that out. Joe Corallo,
Thank
Rachel
you.
Pollack, fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
Jelani, thank you for being here, man. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, good pick, Joe. I'm surprised. Like I said, couldn't get it the first time, got it the second time. Really, really impressive. Once again, way better than Pagemaster. Yeah, Brooks and I do Go Figure reviews. Well, this week we are going to do a house tour. Whose house is it? Oh, you'll find out. So watch it. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, looking forward to that. Brooks, thank you for being here, man. Glad to introduce another movie to your cinema vocabulary. Any final thoughts?
I'll probably just close out with my second favorite in this movie. When two people are meant to be together.
Profound.
What?
That's what she said. That's what she said.
I didn't hear you say it, man.
Like trying to tell her, that he wanted to come with him.
Oh, I get it. It's just
we didn't hear
the situation.
Is my stuff not working too well?
You are doing the bit.
You've been doing the bit a little bit all night, but not too bad. You're not like
you're not me.
Yeah, it's okay though. For the most part, we picked up what you were putting down.
Something about love.
I'm still on Windows 8.
I'll send you another AOL disc to give you another 5 free hours. All right, how about that? All right, thank you all for joining us. Join us Thursday night for the Best Comics of the Month stream. Join Dylan over at Dylan's Horror Show Saturday for Jaws. And join us in 2 weeks for Action Fest, the kickoff, the Indiana Jones franchise. All 5 films, y'all. There's going to be 5 of them. Think about that. There's another Indiana Jones movie this week. Is anybody excited?
Not really. I'm not excited. Oh, yes, I'm excited.
I'm hearing decent stuff. It's James Mangold. It could be good, right, y'all? It could be good.
We'll see.
It could be good.
It could be a Temple of Doom ×2. I don't know.
Temple of Doom's fucking awesome.
Really.
You shut your fucking mouth, man. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Anyway.
I'll watch it again. I'll see.
All right. Thank you all for being here. We really do appreciate it. We really do appreciate it. Crew's Choice has been awesome. We did some really great movies and also Pagemaster. So there you go. Manny, you lost. Fucking
We've never had a loss before.
You lost, and I think Brian might have won with Throne of Blood, but like you lost for sure with the Pagemaster. So Manny, that's on you.
Take that L.
Yeah, so just take that, and you better choose the next one very fucking carefully. Anyway, we love you. I'm going to leave you on this. If two people are meant to be together,